races take place on ovals, with the drivers turning the machines to the left around the tracks. Twice a year, tradition is bent slightly as the Grand National drivers come here to Riverside International Raceway, located some 80 miles east of Los Angeles. They compete on this twisting, winding 2.6-mile road course. Here, the drivers confronted with all the classic challenges of a road course: high-speed S's, short chutes leading to demanding corners, and the ever-present right-hand turn. Hello, I'm Ed Bruce. The last time we visited Riverside, it was to watch the exotic marquees, the Porsches, the Marches, the Jaguars, cars synonymous with road racing. Today, it's Ford, Buick, Chevrolet, Dodge, Pontiac, cars most often associated with oval-track racing. This track represents quite a change of pace for the drivers today, and we asked a few of them how they felt about it.
This type of racetrack that really smoothness getting in the corner and then really accelerating off, you really have to have a lot of discipline, and it takes me a couple of 3 days to really get dialed in before I can really go on this course.
Well, you know, it's just totally different from what we do on the super speedways or the oval tracks, and you go the different way, the whole thing, you know, just shift about 9 times a lap, and your left and right turns. So, you know, you just have to get geared up for Riverside. We've been coming out of here enough, so I feel like I can run the track pretty good. I'm pretty used to it, so I'm pretty comfortable racing it.
Well, I'll tell you, when I first started coming out here, I'll be the first one to tell you, it was a chore for me to get around here at all. I spent most of the time off the racetrack instead of on it, but I've worked at it. I went to Bondurant's for a while at the school up there and spent a couple of years working with that, and it helped me on the racetrack. And since that time, I've been fortunate enough to run good out here, and it's given me a little bit of confidence, and that's a big factor coming in here, to feel like you can conquer the place or be competitive on before you get here. And I've been lucky lately, and it's been working.
All things considered, would you rather be at Riverside or Charlotte?
Well, it'll be Charlotte.
Harry just needs to say what's really on his mind. Now that we know how the competitors feel about today's racing, let's go to Brock and Steve and see how they feel about it. Steve?
Thank you, Ed. On the pole is a man who could today win his 3rd major victory in Winston Cup racing in a week in 1 day. Of course, I'm talking about the number 11 car, Darrell Waltrip of Franklin, Tennessee. Darrell, is there a bigger advantage to being on the pole of a road course than, say, a super speedway?
Yeah, I believe so. You know, the turns are really tight on the up through the S's, 6, 7 over in there. If you're out front, you don't have to worry about somebody running into you or running you off the racetrack. In the early going, it's really critical to be on the pole and be up front. A lot of framming and bamming that goes on back in the pack back here, and I'm glad I'm not in it.
And dealing with traffic on a road course is a lot different than a major speedway.
Oh, sure. It's a major part of the race. You know, you can get caught behind a slow car and lose a lot of ground, or you can make it around a guy and put distance between you and a guy running second. So you play the traffic, particularly through the S's.
And you're going to shift gears more today than you would in a whole season oval track racing.
About 7 times a lap we'll be shifting, and I don't know how many times that is. I hadn't figured it out, but
hundreds.
Hundreds. I know my left leg will be a little shorter than my right one when we get done.
Good luck.
Thanks a lot.
All right, let's go to Brock Yates, who is with the other car here in the front row.
Thanks, Steve. I'm with Terry Labonte. He'll start on the outside of the front row. He is going to seek his 2nd victory in a row here in this June race here at Riverside. Terry, you got a man right next to you, Darrell, that's run real strong here at Riverside, but you run real strong over the years. How do you feel about this 240-mile sprint coming up here?
Well, I don't know. Our car worked awful good practice, and if it continues to work that well during the race, you know, I think we'll have as good a shot at it as anybody does.
Terry, will you make more than the 2 stops if you have to, if you got some cautions, or will you try to run a specific pace out there?
Well, it just depends. We'll just have to wait and see.
Well, real good luck.
Thank you.
Harry Gant may prefer Charlotte, Brock, but he's qualified here in the 2nd row. Alongside him is Tim Richmond, who loves to road race. It's where racing started for him. Tim was kind enough to take our camera for a ride around Riverside in his red number 27 Pontiac.
And guaranteed it's going to be a ride you'll remember. 2.62 miles across the high desert outside Los Angeles. One of the most famous road circuits in America. About to celebrate its 30th birthday in a couple of years as he watched Richmond warming up here. Tim Richmond, as Steve said, started his career in road racing in the smaller classes, moved down to Indianapolis where he's Rookie of the Year in 1980. Now he's an exclusive Grand National driver as he heads out of the pits here at Riverside to begin a lap with our camera on board his Pontiac. across from the grandstand, the pit area on the front straightaway, leading up into turn number 1, a fast left-hander at the crest of a low hill. Then down a straightaway, leading into turn number 2, a very quick right-hander leading toward the world-famous S's.
Maneuvering through the S's, the most important thing you need to do is get through turn 2, leading up to the S's first. You get through there, and you get through the S's pretty much at a high rate of speed. Then approaching turn 6, you need to get the car squared up, downshift into second gear, and up through turn 6.
Turn 6 is a fast right-hander at the crest of the hill, taken in second gear by the Grand National cars. Then down a straightaway, they cut off turn number 7 on this particular configuration at Riverside. Then into a very hard, sweeping right-hander called turn 8.
You go through this corner, and then that leads you to the long back straightaway here in Riverside. If you don't get through the corner fast enough, it doesn't give you that needed momentum to get down that back straightaway as quick as you need to.
From here, Richmond shifts up from 3rd to 4th gear, buries the throttle, and heads down the over 4,000-foot-long back straightaway at Riverside. Here, slightly downhill, speeds will approach 180 miles an hour as he heads underneath the bridge behind the pits, goes through a quick little left-hand kink, and then downshifts, taps the brakes, and heads into the most difficult corner on the racetrack, turn number 9.
And the most dangerous corner on this course, because it's a long right-hand sweeper with the driver's side door next to the fence going in. If you lose control here, it could be a real problem for the driver. Then out of turn 9 leads you to the short little main straightaway leading to the start-finish line.
The start-finish line heading toward turn number 1. Speeds will approach 150 miles an hour here as Tim Richmond completes a lap here on the spectacular Riverside Raceway. Our thanks to Tim, crew chief Barry Dodson, and car owner Raymond Beadle for that ride around what has to be some of those spectacular road mileage in the United States. Steve?
And Brock, not a super team is missing, at least not any of those whose drivers hope to win the Winston Cup Championship for 1985. Darrell Waltrip and Terry Labonte sitting up there in the front row. Both Petties are in this field. And surprisingly, maybe to some, the man who has won the most NASCAR road races at Riverside is Bobby Allison with 6 victories.
Another surprise, Steve, is the fact that Bill Elliott, who has dominated this season so far, is starting well back. He's had some qualifying problems, but his crew assures us that the car is now ready and set up to go. Allison also well back in the field. He had some problems during qualifying. Richard Petty, remember him, he's back there too. Richard had a bad qualifying session as well. Kenny Schrader, one of the youngsters off the IndyCar short track circuit up in the Indiana area, an expert in the midgets and sprinters, trying his hand at Grand National Stock Car Racing. There's Buddy Baker, also had some problems in qualifying. But as you say, they're all here with the exception of Cale Yarborough, who's only running selected races and not competing for the Winston Cup Championship.
So we're looking at very high horsepower race cars, but awfully heavy at 3,700 pounds, and they're on the narrowest tires you'll find in big league road racing. And of course, driven by guys, to use Waltrip's words, not afraid of whamming and bamming. So we're just moments away from the start of the California 400 here in Riverside, California. Stick with us.
We're about to complete the pace lap here at Riverside. The start of the Budweiser California 400 moments away as the field comes down the long back straightaway and eases through turn number 9. That's Terry Labonte in the blue and white number 44, but the pole sitter, Darrell Waltrip, is actually on the outside. He'll be on the inside, though, as the field comes down the front straightaway and takes the green flag. The fans are on their feet. The green is out. The pace car's off the racetrack. We've got to start, Steve Evans.
400 kilometers to go from green to checker. Darrell Waltrip is on the inside as they head up towards turn number 1. We heard Darrell say what an advantage it is here at Riverside. Believe the race as much as you can. But look at Terry Labonte. What a move in the number 44 blue and white Chevrolet. It is Labonte leading, then Waltrip. Tim Richmond on the inside, and Darrell Waltrip challenging him.
As they head up through the S's, it's the blue and white number 44 of Terry Labonte. Right behind him, Waltrip. Labonte nipped by him in turn number 2 where he got inside. Here they come through turn number 6. This is the slowest part of the racetrack here at Riverside as we see millions of dollars worth of exotic race cars banging and slamming around this tight corner.
And in most cases, Brock, these are not the machines you see on the super speedways. The teams come to Riverside with a special road racing machine they only use twice a year. There is Terry Labonte, the blue and white number 44 Chevrolet, and Brock, he is actually driving away from Darrell Waltrip.
He sure is down this long straightaway. It appears that Labonte's got a little bit of a speed advantage over Darrell. He's pulled out to a bit of a lead. It'll be interesting to see what happens when they get into that very fast sweeper turn number 9. That's the handling part of the racetrack, and here comes Labonte in turn 9, and he has pulled out to about 10 car lengths over Waltrip.
Well, Terry brings a lot of confidence to Riverside, Brock. He won this race a year ago, went on to win the Winston Cup Drivers' Championship, 28 years old. They call him the Iceman from Corpus Christi, Texas.
Look at that car slide through turn number 1. That's what the fan loves about these cars. They slip and slide around like sprinters on the dirt.
Okay, here comes the tail end of the field, negotiating turn 9. We have got a spin coming out of turn number 9. That is Norm Palmer, car number 93. He's going to be okay, Brock, out in the grass. I wonder if it'll bring out a yellow.
It's hard to say. He didn't hit anybody. He's a Californian, one of the guys that runs the Winston West Series. Norman, one of the very few Chrysler products in this field, gets back on the racetrack. There is no car.
Followed by Richmond, and there is Harry Gant, who for the first time came to Riverside with a road racing machine. They didn't try to take their super speedway car and jack the weight around in it. He told me that during qualifying, he really couldn't tell the difference. I think now that he's in the race, he's enjoying the difference.
Well, you've got a Chevrolet, a Pontiac, and a Buick in that little freight train there. They're all basically the same automobile. Chassis are all pure race cars underneath their skin. The bodywork varies a little bit, but the technology underneath, very, very similar. As we watch the Junior Johnson prepared number 11 car driven by Darrell Waltrip, one of the very finest machines, one of the best teams in this business. And look at this. Harry Gant diving underneath Tim Richmond. They head down the front straightaway, but that's going to put him on the outside of turn 1. Look at this, Steve. They go through side by side.
At about 140 miles an hour, and there is Gant all over the place, but he makes it work. Gets Richmond on the outside. Wait a minute, Richmond is striking back. Now it is Tim Richmond on the outside, the red car number 20. They come out of turn 4 into turn number 5. Richmond thinks better of it, tucks it behind Gant. This is some kind of racing in the opening laps.
It sure is. Harry holds the line up into turn number 6. That's a place where Tim can't get by. Too narrow there. And as they come down the short chute toward turn 8, it's Gant with about a 2-car length straightaway.
And certainly the straightaway is the safest place to pass another car. Now Harry Gant has his sights set on Darrell Waltrip, running second place to Darrell 2 times last weekend in Charlotte. Don't you know, even just in the early laps at Riverside, he'd like to say, you know, I can get around you once in a while.
Well, he's going to try right now, I'm sure, as they run underneath Waltrip as they go into turn number 9 to take second place. By Richmond on the outside of turn number 1, and then gets Waltrip on the same lap into turn 9.
Well, this is the most poised that I've ever seen Harry Gant on a road course, Brock. And as I said earlier, it's the first time he's had a specially built road racing machine. Now, Richmond has gotten past Darrell Waltrip, but I wonder also if Waltrip is not pushing that car too hard. More than the car is the transmission. 4 speeds, and the biggest problem over the years at Riverside has been guys breaking third gear.
It sure has, so they have to be careful and featherfoot the automobiles a little bit. Waltrip very poised, has won here before, so he may just when you know is just fiery on a road course. He just drives as hard as anybody. Harry Gant showing all kinds of power and poise, but in the meantime, out front, out of our picture, Terry Labonte continues to lead it. But right now, the whole story is Harry Gant and Tim Richmond fighting it out for second place. Right behind them comes Darrell Waltrip and then Ricky Rudd. But interestingly enough, the man moving on the outside there is a familiar car, number 9, of Bill Elliott. He started 12th, already has moved up into 9th spot. He is coming. Elliott can never be counted out. He's run well here before and is now charging.
And this is a special place for Bill Elliott. It was here he scored his first ever Winston Cup victory back in '83.
And in the meantime, Tim Richmond has retaliated, moved past Harry Gant back into second place. Darrell Waltrip continues to follow back there in 4th.
Brock, does it look to you like Gant's cars maybe set up a little looser than some of the others, just kind of rocking and rolling a bit more?
Either that or else he's driving it a little harder because Harry is really slipping and sliding around here. It could be that Tim got by him because he got a little wide coming off of turn number 9. If these race cars are too loose on a road course like Riverside, you can not only tire the driver out, but your fuel and tire consumption can go up. And, of course, that is a critical factor in all Grand National Stock Car races. The pit strategy, always critical. And there are always new things being tried. For more on that, let's go to Steve and Tim Richmond's pits.
There's been a lot of guesswork over the years as far as fuel consumption and fuel mileage is concerned in NASCAR racing. Ken Hammond of the Tim Richmond crew is trying to minimize that guesswork with a computerized system. And they don't measure fuel by volume or gallons. They measure it by weight. They know the specific gravity of gasoline. They know the temperature of the day. They know exactly how much fuel they have got in these cans by weighing them. After the fuel is put into the race car, they again weigh the can so that they know how much fuel remained in the container. All of that information is then fed into this computer. Okay, they tell it how many green laps the car ran, how many yellow laps, how many pace laps even. The computer is pre-programmed to figure all of that out and read out to them how many miles they have still got left on that load of fuel. Right in here is the actual readout from the scale, an LED readout that they've got to tape up so you can see it in this bright sun. But I think they've got a real edge on some of the competition as far as minimizing that guesswork, not running out of fuel.
Right, Steve, as we watch Jeff Bodine, currently in 7th place, he's got serious problems. Looks like a burned piston from here as he heads into the pits in that number 5 Chevrolet. Remember, he's a former winner here as well, is expected to perform among the leaders, but early in the race, a tough break for Jeff Bodine. But let's not count them out yet. These Grand National crews have been known to take terminally ill race cars and put them back on the racetrack. It's possible it's just a broken oil line that they can repair rather quickly. So Jeff could be back in a matter of a few moments as the crew routinely checks tires, changes tires, and refills them, expecting that maybe he's going to get back underway. But right now, it's costing them. Tries to make repairs.
And also into the pits block came the King, Richard Petty, the winningest stock car driver of them all. Car number 43 headed back out onto the racetrack after servicing, but still in the pits with a lot of smoke puffing out of the exhaust is number 5, and Jeff Bodine. Big problems in that camp. We'll be back to Riverside, California right after these words.
Seldom see a more spectacular sight than this, the road racing stock cars at Riverside. We've had some position changes. Terry Labonte still leads it, but Bill Elliott has moved all the way up into 7th place, and Darrell Waltrip has retaken 3rd, having passed Harry Gant. Remember, Harry charged all the way up into 2nd place, but has now faded a bit and has fallen back to 4th, Steve Evans.
Well, we talked a little earlier, Brock, about the handling of that number 33 car. Just then you saw it kind of make a darting move to the left on him. That may be why he has fallen back to 4th place until he can get in the pits and maybe get that suspension adjusted or a tire problem handled. But Gant right now running a couple of car lengths behind Darrell Waltrip. Here's a good Ford Chevy tussle. That is Neil Bonnet in the number 12 Chevrolet, the red and white car. Just behind him is Kyle Petty in the Ford Thunderbird.
The classic American automotive duel, Ford versus Chevrolet. Bonnet 9th, Kyle Petty 10th, showing a lot of maturity. Neil told me before the race that the big problem with on a road course for Grand National guys is that they tend to charge the corners a little bit too hard, as if they were running a short track, and that tends to use up the brakes, the gearbox, and the tires. So discipline and kind of restraint shows to an advantage. As we watch Terry Labonte come off turn number 9 and head for the pits, the caution's out. What a break, Steve Evans, right off the last corner and into the pits. That'll save him a lot of time.
And the caution is out for this man, car number 93, who has spun in turn number 9. That is Norm Palmer. He spun going into 9 this time. On lap number 1, he spun coming out of 9. Now, Terry Labonte, the leader, is in the pits. Also, the 2nd place driver, Tim Richmond, number 27, is in the pits. The driver that can get out first, Brock, is going to now be leading this race. Terry Labonte is going to win that war easily. He was at the very far end of the road, much closer to the racetrack than was Tim Richmond. Now, they took on fuel and 2 tires only. The short track rule is in effect here on the road course. Under yellow, you can only take on 2 tires.
As we watch one of Richmond's crewmen check tire wear, the rule is intended to give the less well-financed teams a break because the more wealthy teams will throw on 4 tires on virtually every stop and can literally outspend the independents. So as the field circulates under caution, let's stop for a moment to consider the pit crews. You saw them spring into action a few moments ago, and they can mean the difference between victory and defeat. Earlier, Steve had a chance to look at the best in the business.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce to you the world champion pit crew of the number 3 Wrangler Chevrolet. First of all, out of Goodyear A&M, working left side tires, Will Wynn. Right tire man, Mickey Magic Meredith. And in the safety position during tooling, working catch gas, Bobby Moody. Handling the second gas can today, Eddie Brugman. The man who can slam dunk fuel like no other, gas man Barney Boyd. He may only be 6 foot 1 inch, but he's the center on this team, Jackman David Smith. The man who is supposed to drop his pass, tire carrier Danny Chocolate Meyer. Crew chief and front tire man, Kirk Shelmerdine. The driver is the quarterback of this crew, Dale Earnhardt, 1980 Winston Cup champion. And this entire Winston-Salem, North Carolina-based crew is under the direction of head coach and car owner Richard Childress. There they are, the very best crew in NASCAR Grand National Stock Car Racing.
All right, thanks, Steve. And you can be sure that Dale Earnhardt would not be sitting in the 5th spot had it not been for their quick work during that caution. Of course, the crews of Labonte, Richmond, Waltrip, and Rudd did a super job as well. And look at this, Bill Elliott all the way up into 6th spot.
While we're still under yellow, Brock, let's join Ed Bruce.
Thanks, Steve. I'm standing here with Dan Greenwood, who is the president of Riverside International Raceway. Dan, we've been hearing a lot of stories the last couple of years about the status of Riverside and what's going to happen to Riverside. Is there going to be a Riverside?
There's going to be a Riverside, Ed, through 1986. We've been hearing a lot of rumors just the last few days down here in the garages that this is our last year, or even this is our last race. We're contractually committed with NASCAR, with the sponsors, with everybody to run through 1986. As you know, we're looking for a new facility, a place to put a new facility. We have our number 1 site near the city of Corona in the Prado Basin. There is a study that the County of Riverside has caused to happen going on right now. It'll be finished in a couple of weeks, and it'll give us a good idea whether that site is going to work. In the meantime, we are continuing to look for other sites for the Raceway. We've had meetings as late as the day before yesterday looking at a new piece of property. We are committed by the end of the year to know where Riverside's going to be in the spring of 1987. But we are going to be running through 1986. How these things keep going around, I don't know. I would just wish the people that are talking about it would call Bill France Jr., call R.J. Reynolds, call Dan Greenwood, and get our opinions before writing things about what is or is not going to happen to Riverside.
But there will be a Riverside in the future.
There will be a Riverside in the future. It'll be here through 1986. Very small chance it might even be here in part of 87. And we are committed to keeping major automobile racing in Southern California with the establishment of a new Riverside, or at least a new race course in Southern California.
Thank you, Dan. Let's go back to Steve and Brock with today's Riverside.
Ed, we are back under green, and Terry Labonte being chased by Tim Richmond. They took the green flag, coming out of turn number 8, going on to the long backstretch. That can only happen on a road course. Normally, the green would come out at the start-finish line. Look at Richmond challenging as they enter up into turn 1. Now headed for turn number 2. Richmond, red 27, right on the heels of the defending national driving champion, Terry Labonte, who also won this race a year ago. Slipping and sliding, the track asphalt breaking up a little bit, making things even trickier.
As we watch Terry Labonte slide up into turn number 6, holding the line down tight, not letting Richmond get by. A whole mob of competitors come after him. Here comes Labonte down into turn number 8. That Monte Carlo SS with a special nose on it, designed pretty much for Grand National Stock Car Racing, ought to give Terry a little bit of an aerodynamic advantage down the back straightaway. And in fact, he pulls out a few car lengths on Tim Richmond as they head down toward turn number 9.
So you got Chevrolet and Pontiac battling up front, and here you see the Thunderbird number 15 of Ricky Rudd being chased by the number 3 car of Dale Earnhardt of Chevrolet. And this will show us how difficult turn number 9 really is. 180 degrees. It resembles one end of, say, a 1-mile super speedway, except you're going the opposite direction you're used to traveling. Earnhardt closing right up on the bumper of Ricky Rudd. They hang down low to half of turn number 9. Now they'll swing out wide, only inches from the wall. It's the only time in Grand National Racing that the driver has the wall on his side of the automobile.
And in fact, the fatality a number of years ago at turn number 9 was the reason that all Grand National cars now are required to carry driver's window nets. We'll be back with more of the slipping, sliding, fender-banging Grand National stock cars at Riverside, California after this.
Number 44, Terry Labonte, continues to lead the Budweiser California 400 here in Riverside, California. But how about Bill Elliott, the Ford Thunderbird? He has moved up from 12th to the 5th position, but unfortunately for car number 3, Dale Earnhardt, he has fallen way off the pace, in fact, out of the top 10, Brock Yates.
That's a tough break for Dale Earnhardt, who drives about as hard as anybody, as we watch the number 44 car of Terry Labonte head down the back straightaway. And speaking of hard drivers, watch out for Tim Richmond in that number 27 Pontiac. Nobody tries harder at Riverside than Tim Richmond. Here goes Dale Earnhardt heading for the pits, coasting down the inside of the racetrack, and doubtlessly out of the race, and if not out, surely so far behind you'll never catch up. That is Richmond in second spot, just hammering through turn number 1. These cars get all kind of sideways and light as they crest that little hill in turn 1. We've seen some spectacular passes there already today as Labonte leads it down through the S's. Look at him down into the dirt on the apexes of those corners as they wiggle up toward turn number 6. They'll catch second gear in the tight turn number 6 and head down toward 8.
Brock, in the interest of safety, only 22 gallons of gasoline is allowed to be in each pit. So as soon as that 22-gallon tank is full, the two 11-gallon containers are brought here to the Union 76 service station right at Riverside Raceway. Union furnishes a special blend of racing gasoline to all of the teams free of charge. But for some of these guys, it's like waiting in those gas lines of the 70s. They want to get back to the pits in a hurry.
Absolutely right, but they'll rush back to the pits and be ready for yet another pit stop as we watch Neil Bonnet, who's riding in a 6th spot, twist his way around Riverside. Neil, of course, has won here before, has been successful at Riverside. Right now, though, he's scrapping back there, not quite up among the leaders.
Well, in this 6th place freight train, you've got, of course, Neil Bonnet in 6th, followed by Ron Bouchard in 47, 22, Bobby Allison, 6-time winner here, then 33, Harry Gant, number 7, Kyle Petty, all of them 6th back in that particular order. Well, that crew of the number 3 car we featured earlier has got to be wearing some crowns now. Their man is out of the race. Brock is with him in the garage area.
Dale Earnhardt obviously displeased. What do you reckon happened, Dale?
I don't know, Brock. Dropped a rod, I think. You know, something out the bottom of the engine. That's the second one we lost this week. We lost a qualifier before qualifying, and we had a real good shot at sitting on the pole, and something happened to it, and then same thing happened to this. So, you know, we hadn't run this car since Bristol. We redid it, so there might be something wrong with the oil system. I don't know, it's starving the motor or something, but all the gauges were reading good. It was going along fine and just sort of riding along, you know, with the pace, and you know, it's a shame this regular Chevrolet just didn't finish today.
Any warning at all?
No, it just went out on us.
Well, we're sorry you're out.
Thank you, Brock.
That's about the worst thing that can happen internally in an engine, a broken connecting rod. But having no problems out on the racetrack, number 44, Terry Labonte. Well, he does have one little problem. It's called number 27 red, Tim Richmond. Richmond driving more aggressively now. His Pontiac seems to be handling beautifully, and he is challenging Terry Labonte. He's not content to play follow the leader.
And this will be where he'll try him on the inside of turn number 9, and he does move underneath him. Terry got a little bit wide. Richmond just charged the corner and took the lead as they come back off turn number 9 and head down the front straightaway. You've got the first new leader of the day, Tim Richmond. This is not altogether surprising because a lot of guys along pit wall clocked Richmond in practice yesterday as going very, very quickly. So they expected he might lead. Now let's go to Steve in Richmond's pit.
Well, I'm with car owner Raymond Badel, the 27 car driven by Tim Richmond. Had to be a pretty sight. Tim just came by here in the lead.
Yeah, we were hoping he'd at least lead some of the laps so we could get the extra points, but we dropped out of a few races earlier this year, and we've been picking up a few positions here lately.
You know, I know that this year you retired from driving the famous Blue Max Clinic car to concentrate more on this kind of racing, being around, helping out, guiding the team.
Yeah, I've spent a lot more time. In fact, I've probably been with the NASCAR more this year than I have the last 2 years combined. But our performance has been doing better and better all year long. I don't necessarily think it's because I've been around, but I mean, if we have some questions, I try to answer them right then instead of waiting till Monday.
Well, knowing Raymond Beadle, I'm sure the crew pays a lot more attention when he's around. He's a great guy, but a great organizer and a great boss, as he has turned this team into contender after only entering Grand National competition a few years ago. All right, here comes Neil Bonnet. Right behind him, Bouchard, Harry Gann, Bobby Ellison, Kyle Petty in the 6th spot. They are fighting it out. And watch Ron Bouchard and Harry Gann. Those guys are really banging on each other. Gann, remember, got as high as 2nd place early in this race and is now falling back. Now Harry Gann trying Bouchard down low in turn 9, and he gets him. Ron Bouchard got wide in the center of turn number 9, and Harry Gann just blew past him to retake 7th place and perhaps begin to pick up some of those spots that he held earlier in the event.
Well, Harry Gann kind of tucked the fender under Bouchard there. Bouchard looked over, couldn't take the line he wanted. Harry really forced him high more than anything else, Brock. But I tell you, there's a good battle going on back for the 4th spot as well. Number 15, Ricky Rudd, the red and white Thunderbird, being chased by yet another Thunderbird, number 9, Bill Elliott. Elliott has come all the way from 12th to 5th and now wants 4th.
He sure does. He's been nipping away all afternoon, slowly working his way through this field. Of course, Elliott been a superstar on the big speedways, just blowing everybody away on the faster high bank tracks of the South. Came in here, did not practice well, qualified way back in 12th spot, as you said, but now just working his way through the field. Who knows? Rudd could be the next target on his list as they head down into turn number 9.
Well, no matter where Bill Elliott may run in his pack, the conversation in the pits is almost always about him. Because, of course, he has a chance, Brock, to earn that $1 million if he can win at Darlington later this year. Here comes Bill Elliott, a big drive down the straightaway. Now takes him inside. He is now in the 4th position ahead of Ricky Rudd.
But it's not over yet, Steve. He's got to take the high side through that fast left-hander turn number 1. He does it. Takes it the hard way. Bill Elliott moves into 4th spot. He's on the prowl here at Riverside. Can he catch the leaders? Stay with us.
Well, the media likes to call them the good old boys, but there's a driver from Ohio leading the California 400 here in Riverside, California. That, of course, is Tim Richmond. Terry Labonte from Texas running 2. They better all look out for Bill Elliott, who's moved up into the 4th spot, and falling back a bit is Ron Bouchard. He's back to the 9th spot. Maybe some problems there.
And possibly some problems with these 2 cars as well, Steve. That's car number 12, Neil Bonnet, followed by number 33, Harry Gann. Both those automobiles not performing quite up to expectations, at least in this point of the race. Gann, of course, up among the leaders earlier, but look at this. This is Darrell Waltrip coming off turn number 9, going outside of Terry Labonte and trying to take over 2nd place. He does it the hard way on the outside of turn 1.
Well, Darrell Waltrip does to Terry Labonte what Terry Labonte did to Darrell Waltrip on the very first lap of this race. Sweet revenge.
It sure is. You wonder about Labonte as well. Remember, he had a big lead in the early stages and now fallen all the way back to 3rd place as we watch Bill Elliott broad slide through the S's in that number 9 Ford Thunderbird. What a driver he is, and it looks like he's gobbling up the distance between himself and Terry Labonte in the 3rd spot.
To me, Brock, part of the appeal of these big cars and road courses is the fact that they do slide, like race cars some people feel should. A big GTP car, they go through here with the ground effects just glued to the pavement, big wide tires. Not so here. These guys have got to muscle these cars around.
They sure do, Steve. Think of it this way. A Grand Touring prototype is 1,000 pounds lighter than these cars and carries tires almost 2/3 as wide. So these cars slide, they drift, they look great on a road course. As Darrell Waltrip now puts some power in to that number 11 Chevrolet and moves out away from Terry Labonte and now rides undisputed in the 2nd spot.
So Darrell Waltrip goes hunting for Tim Richmond, who's about 10 car lengths out in front of him. But the way Waltrip... Oh, and we have got a spin. That is one of the NASCAR West machines. Car number 32, Ruben Garcia. Probably got a little close to turn number 9's wall, maybe overcorrected. But I don't believe we'll see a yellow here, Brock. He got off, and he's okay coming back.
Steve, that took an instant response on the part of Waltrip, because if the yellow had come out, he would have been in perfect position to dive into the pits. If the yellow didn't come out and he went into the pits, he'd have fallen way back. I attribute that to the poise and experience of the former champion Waltrip as we watch Bill Elliott slide through the S's in pursuit of Terry Labonte in that number 44 Chevrolet. Look at Elliott gobble up the distance on Labonte as they charge up into turn number 6. It'll be interesting to see how these cars behave down the long straightaway.
And even more interesting, Brock, because Terry Labonte leads the points for the Winston Cup National Championship. Bill Elliott is the number 2 points earner. He'd like to change that here at Riverside.
Well, we're going to get a good look at how these two cars behave down the long straightaway. These are the most aerodynamic shapes in Grand National Racing. The SS Monte Carlo of Labonte, the Thunderbird of Bill Elliott. Remember that the Thunderbird this year earlier was so slick and so fast on the super speedways that NASCAR raised the roof a ½ inch and permitted the Chevrolets to lower their roof line a ½ inch. That's evened it up a little bit. Right now, Labonte holds the lead going into turn number 9, or holds third place going into turn number 9. But look at Elliott diving underneath them, trying to get that inside line as they come off the corner.
Boy, look at the horsepower coming off the corner. He passes Labonte on the inside of turn 9, but that sets him up on the outside of turn number 1. This is really some car racing here.
What a pass! That is a 120-mile-an-hour corner, and Elliott took the high side, went right by Labonte on the outside of that corner. That is a blind crested hill, and believe me, what a hairy piece of driving on the part of Bill Elliott. Now he moves out to about a 2-car length lead as they come up into turn number 6. Well, Elliott all the way from 12th to 3rd. The question right now is, can he go?
We've got a problem in turn number 9. Up against the wall, that is number 52, Jimmy Means. And I guarantee you that's going to bring out a yellow flag. Things are going to get a bit crazy in the pit area. Any driver that was looking for a yellow suddenly gets his wish granted, and it's going to get wild down on pit row.
It sure is. The guys are grabbing for the air wrenches and the gas cans and the spare tires as Tim Richmond comes off turn 9 and dives down toward pit lane. It'll be crucial to get in and out of here. Remember, they only get 2 tire changes on these yellow flags. So here goes the Richmond crew on the outside rubber. That is the rubber, of course, on these right-handed corners that gets the most wear. Here comes Terry Labonte. The crew chief there, Dale Inman, a cousin of the famed Petties, worked on that team for years. Now with Billy Hagan's Strutograph team, Terry Labonte changes the right side tires. Here comes Richmond underway. He should hold the lead.
Yes, he will, Brock. He will go out falling behind the pace car, as will Darrell Waltrip, who has beat Terry Labonte out of the pits. In fact, Bill Elliott there also comes out of the pits ahead of Terry Labonte. So the 44 car that took on right side rubber, a bit of surprise, has slipped back to the 4th position. It's going to take the tow truck a few minutes to get Jimmy Means off the wall, so let's catch up with Ed Bruce.
Thanks, Steve. And I'm sitting here with one of the real legends of stock car racing, Ned Jarrett. He's been around racing for a long time, sportscaster. And now you're getting into my business. What's this about making records, Ned?
Well, first, Ed, let me say that I'm pleased to be associated with the sport so long in various forms. But this record was an idea of a fellow by the name of Mike Hopkins from over in Tennessee. There's 21 drivers on there singing songs about themselves. And these songs were written by professional songwriters from Nashville, Tennessee. But they're not trying to move into your category. Believe me, they couldn't challenge you. But you would be surprised at some of the talent that you hear on there. And it's a fun thing for some of the fellows, and let them expose another talent that they might have.
Well, I was looking through it, and I recognized quite a few of the riders. Of course, I recognize all these drivers here. Is it selling any records?
It's beginning to move pretty good, especially as people hear some of the songs. Kyle Petty, Dick Brooks, Terry Labonte. You'd be surprised at how they sound on there. Not as good as you, but as good as some professional artists that we have heard.
I didn't see Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Go Be Cowboys on here.
No, these were all original songs, and I think that's one thing that's helping to make it so popular.
Let's go back and see some more racing. Okay. Thank you, Ned.
Right, Ed, and right now, Tim Richmond leads them around behind the pace car. We're still under caution here at Riverside. The 5 leaders' positions have not changed since that Gloria pit stop. Ricky Rudd brings up the number 5 spot. Bobby Allison leads the second 5. Kyle Petty, number 10. Okay, as we get ready for some green flag racing, let's try a little special musical treat.
I like to run down at Riverside. The town is a rough one. So when I take a race away from Taylor Dale, it's a tough one.
Here at Riverside, California, 27, Tim Richmond battles number 11, Darrell Waltrip for the lead in the Budweiser California 400. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates and Ed Bruce, and this has turned out to be some kind of a car race. A lot of these Grand National drivers, Brock, don't look forward to Riverside, but when they get here, they give it their all and more.
Well, they've got to, Steve. They've got no choice. There is no place for stroking in Grand National stock car racing. If you want to run anywhere near the leaders, you got to charge as hard as you can make the car go. And that's exactly what Tim Richmond is doing right now as he sweeps down into turn number 9 to hold on to the lead. But this young man, Ricky Rudd, in the number 15 Thunderbird, is working as hard as he can just to hold on to 5th place, because right behind him, one of the all-time greats, Bobby Allison, in the number 22 Buick, and directly behind him, another fine driver, Neil Bonnet.
Well, Ricky Rudd is one of the drivers brought to us one here at Riverside. He knows that just a single victory in the season, the following season is worth a lot of money. It qualifies you for all kinds of NASCAR programs. Neil Bonnet got off to a rocky start earlier in the season, but has seen the winner's circle twice this year.
And one of the most personable and articulate drivers in all of motorsport as we watch the leader, Tim Richmond, sweep up the little hill going up into turn 6. That's number 11, Darrell Waltrip, right behind him. But at the present time, it looks as if that number 27 Pontiac, Richmond's got the advantage. And here comes a great name, Buddy Baker. Got a tire down, no doubt, Steve.
I think it's worse than that, Brock. Look how it's moving around. He has broken a rear end in that automobile, fighting the wheel, just trying to get it to the wall. That's a lot more than just simply a tire going down. The whole differential is loose in that car.
Well, that'll definitely put Buddy out for the day. That's an unfortunate break for him. He wasn't with the leaders at the present time, but the volatility of this kind of racing can put somebody from way, way back up among the leaders in a matter of a few caution flags or a couple of quick pit stops. That is Tim Richmond still leading it here once again down into the fastest and most difficult part of this racetrack, that big sweeping right-hander they call turn 9.
And you heard Raymond Beadle, the car owner of number 27, say earlier they want to get out and lead as many laps as they can, because every time you cross that start-finish line in the lead, you pick up a few points.
Well, there's Darrell Waltrip riding in second spot. Remember, he started on the pole, but has not led it here so far. But he's moving in on Richmond right now. That's Buddy Baker, the gentle giant, they call him, out of the automobile. No doubt finished for the day. Very frustrating day for Buddy at this particular time of his career.
And we heard Buddy just before the race tell us he didn't like Riverside. It's been awful hard on him over the years. Well, it continues to be very hard on him. Here comes Tim Richmond getting a lot of pressure from Darrell Waltrip in number 11 riding in the second spot. Richmond's car may not be handling quite as well as it was earlier, Brock, darting around a bit.
Well, they tend to dart around a lot here on this racetrack. It's a little bit hard to tell, Steve, but he could be losing a tire. They do get some rapid tire wear in these very heavy race cars on these right-left corners here at Riverside. But right now, it's Richmond out front as they head down the long straightaway. Right behind him, Waltrip, and behind him, and is going to be, I would reckon, a factor here pretty quickly. Up into third place, the number 9 Thunderbird of Bill Elliott. Here comes Richmond, a little left-handed kink. Now hard on the brakes, downshifting into third gear, sets it up for that long, sweeping right-hander number 9, turn number 9.
And look at Waltrip actually hanging that right front wheel over the white line. Now moving just in behind Richmond. He's going to try him on the inside. Darrell Waltrip with smoke off the tires, foot on the gas. Darrell Waltrip is your new leader by 2 feet.
But again, side by side through turn number 1. Look at that bobble a little bit by Richmond. He barely hung on to it. And Elliott moved up right onto Richmond's bumper as we have a new leader, Darrell Waltrip, in a daring pass. That's the third one of those wild passes we've seen at turn number 1. And you'll very seldom see anybody passing that corner.
Well, you really got to wonder if Richmond does not have some kind of a tire problem, but he's too aggressive a driver to let Waltrip do that to him if his car was handling properly. Now it's Bill Elliott with his sights on Richmond, and again Richmond's car bobbles a bit.
Well, let's not forget the fourth man in that train. That's the number 44 Chevrolet of Terry Labonte. Remember, he was out front for a while and has also moved back into contention. So we've got 4 cars here fighting essentially for first place.
And Richmond's car, particularly in the few left-hand corners on Riverside, is not handling that well. He may have some right-side tire problems.
It's entirely possible, but right now he's worried only about one thing, and that's that number 9 Thunderbird of Bill Elliott, who is right on his bumper. Tim Richmond has had to give way a little bit here, and it's got to be frustrating to a Charger like him to have to kind of feather foot through these corners, and it could be, as you say, some tire problems. Right now, though, Elliott dives low. This is where Waltrip took Richmond earlier on the last lap. Will Elliott do it? They're nose to nose as they cross the start-finish line. Elliott tries him on the outside, and he nails him from 12th place all the way up to second. It's time for a little traveling music from Bill Elliott.
Wild Bill Elliott, a crazy racing man. I'd like to live up to John Wayne if I can. I'm driving my best when I make them tires burn, and I still give her hell when I hit my last turn.
Stock car fans are getting the kind of action today they normally just see on television. What a fight for the lead. Darrell Waltrip in the Chevrolet number 11. Brock sliding behind him. The sensation of 1985, Bill Elliott, the Ford Thunderbird. Brock, it's just a sensational racing.
It sure is. A lot of guys, of course, will tell you that the Grand National guys don't know how to turn right because they run on ovals all the time. Well, forget that. These guys are expert road racers, as you just saw. Beautiful control. Here's Tim Richmond into the pits under green for a tire change. Of course, they can change all four. I think your speculation was right, Steve. I think he had some tires going away, and that was the reason why Waltrip and Elliott were able to run him down. A really tough break for this young Charger as he sits there fuming while his crew hurries to get all four tires changed. Back underway. Now Tim's got to hope that the green stays out for a while so that the leaders are going to have to stop under green. If a caution comes out, Tim's chances for catching up are vastly diminished.
Yeah, they are just about remote and none. But right now, you can bet that Darrell Waltrip in the lead, and right behind him in the Thunderbird, Bill Elliott. They'll be looking for a yellow flag. If they get it, it'll be a big advantage to them, Brock.
Well, right now, the green is still out, and here comes Ricky Rudd again, forced in for fuel and tires, and there comes Bobby Allison. He's in the 7th spot, so it looks as if time is running out for the leaders. They may have to stop under green as well, and of course, that really causes a change of position.
But as long as you do have to pit with a green flag out, everyone's going to take on four tires. Well, Ricky Rudd and here Bobby Allison. We explained the tire rule earlier. The short track tire rule in effect here at Riverside. On yellow, a maximum of 2. On green, change all 4 if you want.
So Ricky Rudd underway. There, the final lockout is tightened up on Bobby Allison's car. He's underway as well. So the green flag carries, Clark Dwyer into the dirt in a big way through the S's. Will that bring out the yellow? That's the question right now, Steve. He's covered the racetrack with dirt and a lot of dust.
I have a feeling that it will, Brock. Indeed, the yellow flag is out. And what a beautiful sight that is for Darrell Waltrip and Bill Elliott. Tim Richmond, he doesn't like it a bit. It means he is going to further lose ground. Here is Elliott's Thunderbird coming into his pit. Now, the yellow is out. They can only change 2 tires. They're going to attack the left side of the automobile.
That is the side that gets the most wear in these predominantly right-handed corners here at Riverside. It's going to be a race. They race just as hard in the pits as they do on a racetrack. Waltrip underway. Elliott underway. A drag race out of the pit lane, and it's Elliott who wins it. Waltrip falls back. There goes Labonte roaring out up through the gears. What a race out of the pit, Steve.
And it scrambled things a little bit. Bill Elliott, by a victory of winning the pit race, is now in front. Darrell Waltrip second, followed by Terry Labonte. Let's go to Brock and Waltrip's pit.
I'm with Junior Johnson, Darrell was just about at the end of pit lane when that yellow came out. You guys had to scramble a little bit.
Well, we didn't expect the caution to come out that close to us being, right where we had to enter the pit, so we just had to make a spur of the moment decision. And that's what you got to do at this place. It's hard to tell where your car is at when the caution comes out or in, and you just got to keep on your toes and watch for it.
Okay, well, good luck. Thanks.
Well, Brock, you talked earlier about how alert guys like Darrell Waltrip are when that yellow comes out. If he had just blinked his eye, he'd have missed that flag and had to make a whole lap before he could have gone into the pit. So a proud car owner, Junior Johnson, and well he should be. Poor Tim Richmond with his problems now has slipped clear back into the 10th position. And right now, as we are under caution, let's see what Ed Bruce is up to. Ed?
As we travel around the country covering motorsports events like drag racing and road racing, stock car racing, sprint cars, even the swamp buggy races, we get the impression that it's a healthy sport, motorsports in general. We thought we'd go directly to the source. This is John Cooper, who's the chairman of ACUS. John, what is the state of automotive sports right now?
Ed, I think as we approach the halfway point of the 85 season that it's never been better. We've got competition in all forms of motorsports that's certainly the best I can remember in a long time. Crowds, television coverage. I can't think of any aspect of motorsports that's not on an upswing right now.
Well, of course, we noticed the big crowds out, and it's colorful. It's a very family-oriented sport.
It is a family-oriented sport. Here at Riverside, California, racing is entering the next to last year at this speedway. As you know, there'll be a new or relocated Riverside, hopefully by the 87 season.
Steve Evans.
And Terry is making up for that war he lost in the pit. He has already driven around Darrell Waltrip, but so also is Darrell's own teammate Neil Bonnet, currently running in third. So Waltrip, possibly with a problem, has slid back to the fourth spot.
That's what makes this kind of racing so interesting. The cars, guys will get up near the front, then they'll fall back, move back up again. Terry, remember, led it for a while, then fell back as far as fourth place. As we watch Neil Bonnet sweep through turn 6, right behind him, his teammate Darrell Waltrip, who, of course, led it just a few laps earlier.
And now how about the bandit, Harry Gant, green and white, 33. He's in 5th place and has his sights. Well, the tire is completely shredded. You see pieces of it flying through the field. Darrell Waltrip, car number 11, is going to have to lift that Chevrolet all the way through turn 9 and back to the pit area. It's going to take some time. If he tries to do it too fast, he could do even further damage to the car. So we see Waltrip right now even try to hang a wheel over in the dirt if he can.
Oh, it's a tough break for Darrell Waltrip. Remember, he changed the left side tires during that last caution. These right sides, though, they've been on for a while, although it's possible he cut it down with some debris on the racetrack. He lost 2 tires in practice with debris on the racetrack, and who's to know? But no matter what the cause, this will put him way, way back.
And I guarantee you the pitman that handles that right rear tire is going to have a pair of double thick gloves.
The Budweiser California 400 roars on here at Riverside, but this young man and his Buick will not be part of it. Ron Bouchard came in just a few moments ago. The hood went up, and the crew chief said, sorry, let's push her off toward the garage. A tough break. Ron Bouchard ran as high as 7th place and then fell back, while this man, Bill Elliott, charged from 12th place into the lead. Terry Labonte started on the outside of the front row. He holds on to 2nd place. And Ricky Rudd still in 6th, and Dave Marcus has moved up in the 10th. Of course, Tim Richmond, after that disastrous stop, way back in 9th place. Steve Evans.
Bill Elliott here passing on the outside as he exits turn 9. Seems to be able to run anywhere he wants to on the racetrack, Brock. Just a fabulous effort by the young man who started 12th. He has got a problem. Elliott veers to the right. He has blown, I believe, yes, a right front tire. The worst place it could blow it. He has got to lift that car all the way around the racetrack to get it changed. This is a disaster for the man leading this race.
Well, it couldn't be a worse place, as you say. If it had happened maybe 100 yards further back down the racetrack, he could have limped into the pits. Right now, though, he's got over 2.5 miles to go with that tire. And now he's going to fall all the way to the back as he tries to limp into the pits. Now,
front, that steering wheel fighting him every inch of the way as he tries to get back to the pit area.
Well, pretty soon that tire point in the race, I would say that he's lost it already. What a terrible, terrible break for this guy. He has just had, of course, all season long, had everything go his way. I suppose it was about time for something to happen that would put him back a bit. As we watch the tire just unfold off that wheel, and he's got another mile to go, and And in the meantime, Terry Labonte, who's gone into the lead, is just fleeing away from him. In fact, it's possible Terry could put a lap on him before he gets into the pits.
He sure could. The crew is ready with a spare right front tire, anxiously awaiting the arrival of Bill Elliott, but that's going to be a little while. They didn't need to be told on the radio what happened. It happened right in front of that pit, and there's nothing left but molten rubber wrapped around that right front wheel on the Ford Thunderbird. Where is he? They're looking.
Well, first it was Waltrip, now Elliott, fighting their way into the lead, only to have a tire problem. So you got to wonder whether Terry Labonte is sitting out front there saying, uh-oh, am I next?
Well, probably not, Brock, because on the last caution, Labonte's crew, you remember, changed right side rubber. Crafty move by Dale Inman and his group. Labonte out there on good tires. And let's not forget Bobby Allison. He's charging around here in third spot now.
He sure is. This is a wonderful part about Grand National Stock Car Racing. These relatively small tires on these heavy cars, small gas tanks, make for a lot of strategy, a lot of pit stops, a lot of thought on the part of the crew chiefs. And right now, we saw the strategy pay off for Bobby Allison and Terry Labonte. Of course, he's still running, but for a young man like Elliott, there is no other place except first place. This man, Neil Bonnet, the other half of the Junior Johnson crew, also parked. Remember, Darrell Waltrip cut down a tire while he was leading in his car team.
And coming into the pits, 4 tires on the left side is Bobby Allison. Let's see if they take on right side rubber. We are under green. They could well do that. No, sir. They're going to conserve time. Just get the tires on the left-hand side.
Well, this man gets underway. He could be a factor here. He's moved steadily up through the field from the start of the race. Now sits in third place with a full tank of fuel and fresh tires. And here comes Terry Labonte.
Remember, he's pitting under green as Allison did. Allison only took left side rubber. Labonte, Dale Inman, and crew, they're going to put tires on all 4 corners and go out trying to win this race.
Well, they're going to have to, because their chief rival at they've got to know that this man can charge here at Riverside. So Terry Labonte takes on fresh rubber and a full tank of fuel. He's underway. That should be his final stop here. So Terry Labonte accelerates up through the gears, down pit lane and onto the racetrack.
And here comes the second place runner, the Bandit Harry Gant. Everybody else pitted under green. He didn't dare wait. Right-hand side just sucks it dry. Tires going on all 4 corners there, too. We're going to have a NASCAR shootout, the kind that only happens in Grand National Stock Car Racing. Now, while Harry is sitting here getting fresh rubber, Bobby Allison comes streaking by to take over his second position.
And I'll tell you what, Steve, Allison's got his sights on Labonte, who's still accelerating back. It's possible here at Riverside. Stick with us. This is going to be a wild finish.
Normally in Grand National Stock Car Racing, you expect to see those last lap shootouts on a big oval. Could happen today on the road course at Riverside, California. As we expected, Bobby Allison did get around Terry Labonte in the S's, leads this race, but the blue car of Labonte, number 44, right on his bumper.
Well, Terry's definitely got lead in mind. He had it for a while and just lost it to Allison, but as they come on to the back straightaway, let's see what kind of a drag race develops. Labonte wags his tail there a little bit, and now they accelerate up to about 180 miles an hour coming at us.
Oh, this is just an incredible race. Look at this. They're going to split the car in the middle. It is. Bobby Allison takes him on the outside, Labonte on the inside, and now they are just side by side.
But Labonte's got the right line in that little left-handed kick, but Allison comes right back to take the low side going into turn number 9. They're going to do it side by side. But Labonte up high, dives down toward the apex and grabs the lead. Well, based on that little bit of a performance exhibition right there, it looks as if Terry Labonte not only has a little
on their feet all around this racetrack at 2.62 miles, and who wouldn't be, as Terry Labonte, the defending Winston Cup champion, has the winningest road racer ever in the stock car at Riverside, Bobby Allison, right on his tail. Allison, a 6-time winner here. No one else has done it that often.
But I'll tell you what, Steve, unless he's got something up his sleeve, I don't think he's going to be able to get back that lead from Terry Labonte. Labonte seems to have the edge right now as we watch Bobby Allison slowly fall back. But right now, let's go to Steve Evans, who's in the Bobby Allison pit, to find out what's going on.
Robin, the Labonte crew says that they're all done with their pit stop. They can go the distance. What about the 22 car?
We're all done for now. We got enough fuel to go the way. I guess they outguessed us on tires today.
Yeah, they've done a fine job down there, but you're sure you've got enough fuel there?
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Well, Steve, not only does Bobby Ellison have to worry about the man in front of him, he's got a challenge coming up behind him. The bandit, Harry Gant, number 33, is moving in on Ellison.
And we are in the closing laps of this 400-kilometer checker, running in the second spot. Bobby Ellison, and now look at Harry Gant. The number 33 car, green and white, gonna try him on the inside out of turn number 9. No, thinks better of it. Gives him no quarter. Gant gets a half a car length pony, but it will not work. Bobby Ellison continues to run second as they head up towards turn number 4, 5, and 6.
The S's, it gives Bobby Ellison a chance to open it out a little bit. As they head up into turn number 6, he's got about 2 car lengths on Harry Gant. Let's see if Bobby can hold it in the tightest part of this racetrack. Gant dives. Be a drag race down the back straightaway. If he's going to do it, Harry Gant will have to do it down the long back chute.
And what a job Harry Gant has done all day long, running up with the leader in a car, to me, Brock, that appears to be very twitchy at all times. Never does it want to take the proper set in these turns.
Well, here they come, coming at us about 180 miles an hour, and it looks like right now Ellison's going to be able to hold him off. But this is a very, very determined man in the number 33 Bandit, and if he's, look, slip underneath him going into turn number 9. So Gant takes over second place. Tire smoking, driving that thing as hard as he can.
Well, they're starting to call Harry Gant Mr. Second Place. He was second to Darrell Waltrip 2 races last weekend in Charlotte and appears on his way to a second place finish here at Riverside.
Harry Gant still hasn't got it in hand, though, because Ellison is right back at him. Ducks down inside in front of that lap car. That was a little bit of a help for Harry Gant. They're going nose to tail through the S's. Bobby Ellison right with him. It's going to be a race right to the finish here with these 2 automobiles. Harry Gant second, Bobby Ellison third, and we've got to be headed toward the final lap.
Well, let's not forget, Terry Labonte is up there in the lead, but this is the fight. This is what the fans are watching, and they're evenly divided here between Harry Gant.
Right-hander that leads onto the back straightaway. We saw him pass Bobby Ellison on that last lap at the end of this straight. Here comes Terry Labonte heading down the back straightaway. He's got about a quarter of a mile lead on the 2 second and third place automobiles. It seems to be in hand for Terry Labonte, but we've seen a bunch of other guys lead it here and then fall back.
Well, Brock, the next time the Iceman at number 44 crosses the start-finish line, he'll see the white flag. That means he's only 2.62 miles away from his second consecutive California 400 victory.
Well, they call him the Iceman because he's so laid back, a very modest, very quiet young man. But, boy, I'll tell you what, he talks with his right foot when he's on a racetrack as he completes the next to last lap, heading down into the S's. A few more corners remain. Broken gearbox, a spin, anything that could put him out at the last second of this race as he charges up into turn number 6, trying not to make a mistake.
And Brock, let's give a tip of the hat to number 9. The pitch has fought his way back to 6th spot. But it can't be good news for him that Terry Labonte is leading this race, because if he wins it, it appears he will extend his Winston Cup points lead over Bill Elliott.
So Elliott heads down into turn number 1. Obviously a disappointed young man because he made that magnificent charge from 12th place all the way up to the lead, only to cut down a tire and then fall back.
Here comes Terry Labonte. Terry Labonte swinging down into turn number 9. He's only got a few hundred yards before the checkered flag will fly. And car owner Billy Hagan has got to be wishing he didn't go fishing and was here to enjoy their success at Riverside for the 2nd year in a row.
Off the final corner, just about coast toward the finish line. Checkered flag is out. Victory, Corpus Christi, Texas, as Terry Labonte wins it here at Riverside. Sensational victory by this young man.
And we will join
And here are the survivors of this 400-kilometer brawl at Riverside. Petty drives well into 5th spot. Let's go to Steve in victory lane.
Terry Labonte coming out of the number 44 car, notches his 5th career victory, 4 of which have come here at Riverside. Terry's got to like this racetrack a lot, my friend. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. You know, the Piedmont Airlines Chevy ran awful good today. You know, we couldn't have been happier.
It looked like you and Bobby were putting on a heck of a duel, but maybe you had a tire advantage over him.
Well, I don't know. You know, my car was wearing tires awful bad, and at that particular time when I went by Bobby's, his car didn't look like it was working quite as good as it was earlier.
I know his team felt that your guys just outfoxed him on tires.
I guess.
So coming in on green and getting 4 tires, celebrating here in the victory circle is Terry Labonte. Again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's go to Brock Yates with the 2nd place finisher.
Harry, was there any particular moment, was a turning point for you that sort of turned it around for Terry?
No, not really. I just planned to start the race, and I just mainly wanted to try to be there at the end. And then we got lucky enough to get to about 4th or 5th, you know, towards the time before the last caution. And then I run the car as hard as I could go, and I managed to go all the way to the front. But earlier in the race, you know, I put on 4 tires. When I saw Terry past him, I knew it was going to be awfully hard to catch. And I drove awful hard to try to catch him, and, you know, I was wearing it out pretty bad, you know. So maybe if I took it a little easier, I might have maybe got it closer. I don't think I could have beat him out.
Probably not. Well, congratulations on a super drive for 2nd place, sir.
Thank you.
Now let's go to Steve Evans with a 3rd place finisher.
Thank you very much, Brock. I'm with Bobby Allison, a strong 3rd place finisher. The highlight of this race possibly was the duel that you and Terry Labonte put on for those few laps.
Well, you know, all I could do was run as hard as possible and hope that we had enough stuff to stay ahead of him. Unfortunately, he finally got the edge on me, but you know, we ran a good race, and but I had one piece of good news. I heard Davey won over in Atlanta today.
Indeed, he did. In ARCA race, his first victory there?
Well, his first victory at Atlanta, yeah. He won earlier this year in ARCA at Talladega.
That makes Dad smile a whole lot.
He sure does. Yeah.
Was Terry's advantage, was it horsepower, or was it tires? Or handling, what?
It looked like horsepower. I think we had him beat in the handling, but he sure did have the power today.
Thanks for a great show.
Thank you.
So, as we take a final look at the Budweiser California 400 standings, all we can say is that it was yet another classic NASCAR wheel-to-wheel road race. For Ed Bruce and Steve Evans, I'm Brock Yates. Thanks for joining us.
The executive...